Steroids are not just misunderstood or mishandled, they're also mistimed and misprescribed. And too many guys are paying the price with their health. This is why so many men are ending up with heart problems, brain fog, or infertility after using gear. For example, I see a few athletes that are usually in their late 30s. They look amazing on the outside, but inside, their labs paint a totally different picture. And no one's ever explained the possibilities of what can go wrong. Currently, I'm helping hundreds of men navigate testosterone and anabolic use using a risk reduction system I learned under Dr. Thomas O'Connor, the Anabolic Doc. And I refined this through my clinical experience as a naturopathic medical doctor. So by the end of this video, you understand 3 of the most critical steps to avoid permanent damage, and how a little gear used smarter goes a long way. If you're already using or considering it, I've built a framework to review your labs, risks, and goals using the ABCD method and the naturopathic foundations. Link below if you're serious about doing this the right way. So is it true that one steroid cycle can destroy your body forever? Well, that's what a lot of guys think, or what they've been told. But here's the truth. Most of the damage doesn't come from the drug itself. It comes from using it with zero education, no plan, and no exit strategy. One of my patients came up to me after 3 unmonitored cycles, and he was terrified that his heart would explode because of something he read online. And to be fair, he had reason to be concerned, but his biggest problem wasn't the steroid. It was the fact that he didn't really understand what he was doing. The real danger isn't testosterone, nandrolone, oxandrolone, masteron, or primobolan. It's stacking these compounds blindly, sourcing from sketchy underground pharmacies, and never running labs or using post-cycle support. If you're going to do this, you need to understand the pharmacology. Know your baseline labs, know how long each ester lasts in the body, and what a DHT derivative compound is and what it does. You have to know what your exit plan is before you even start. And that brings me to a bigger point. If steroids are so dangerous, why do some guys thrive on them and others end up just wrecked? Externally, most are chasing aesthetics, while internally, they're inflamed, stressed, overtrained, and under-recovered. And philosophically, they believe more is better. But that's a trap. More gear doesn't mean more progress. It can mean more damage, unless you know what you're doing. Now, the real danger isn't the compound, it's the ignorance surrounding it. Bro science has replaced clinical strategy, and most people are flying blind with zero baseline labs, zero understanding of hormone feedback, and zero exit plan. If you're considering using anabolics or already on something, start by getting comprehensive baseline labs. That's your pre-flight checklist. No one should lift off without it. I'll put this in perspective. Anabolic use is associated with 3 times increase in cardiovascular event, especially in unmanaged cases where you have high hematocrit, dyslipidemia, and blood pressure issues. I'll give you an example. One of my patients had been cycling for 10 years. When we finally ran his labs, his lipid panel was so poor that I immediately recommended a coronary calcium scan. Which, by the way, this is something that is considered essential for any long-term users, along with an arterial ultrasound. His results? A coronary calcium score of 700. 700, with over 50% of his plaque distributed across the arteries supplying his heart. And this could have possibly been avoided with proper monitoring. This is what we're up against. When you bypass preventative screenings and choose not to track inflammation, oxidative stress, and lipid metabolism, you're gambling with your cardiovascular future. And this is where risk reduction has to involve in higher interventions. Things like your PCSK9 inhibitors, such as Repatha, or targeted therapies to support lipid metabolism, or things like nebivolol and telmisartan for out-of-control blood pressure, and aggressive control for systemic inflammation to reduce markers like oxidative LDL or hsCRP. Everything depends on the individual, but the point remains. Data-driven care is what keeps people alive. Here is what I use with patients to minimize risk and actually improve outcomes. ABCDs isn't just letters, it's a real framework, and I'll break it down. A equals hemoglobin A1C and glucose control. Insulin resistance is common in anabolic users, especially when they're using insulin or HGH. Ignoring these means accelerating aging and disease. B equals blood pressure. Elevated blood pressure and increased red blood cells, or as we call it, androgen-induced erythrocytosis, is a recipe for cardiovascular issues. C being cholesterol and lipids. And I don't mean just running a basic lipid panel. I use advanced NMR panel with ApoB, Lp(a), oxidative LDL, hsCRP. This is for more accurate cardiovascular risk assessment. And D, which is very important to know prior to starting androgens, and is your blood dispositions. That's like looking into familial genetic factors like hemochromatosis or other blood disorders like polycythemia, or even cancer risks. It also evaluating hematocrit, liver enzymes, kidney markers, mental health statuses. This is all understanding your whole health picture. Androgens and steroids hit multiple systems, including mental health and emotional health. Things like mood swings, anxiety, and irritability are all very common. If you're not watching your metabolic, cardiovascular, hepatic, and neurological profile along with your lifestyle, you're not practicing safe medicine. So run these labs. Use this as your non-negotiable roadmap. Then build your lifestyle around it. Optimize sleep, manage stress, train intelligently, eat as if it is your medicine, and support your detox pathways. Now, I'll give you an example. A patient of mine reduces hematocrit from 54 to 50 as part of a comprehensive strategy. Not just telmisartan, although it does play a role. Depending on the patient, it may include agents like nebivolol, the CEPA, NAC, or other peptides, even off-label use of medications, and supplements with the goal of improving liver function, or reducing oxidative stress with methylene blue. The point is, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's about matching the right intervention to the right individual. Now, this comes to a bigger question that's kind of going on nowadays, where we're looking at, are lifters lowering their doses and still making gains? So guys like 500 milligrams a week, they think it's normal, just as a baseline. It is not. And I'll put into reference, most of my patients will be dosed anywhere from 100 to 250 milligrams a week. Even for bodybuilders, that shouldn't even be their default at 500. There needs to be a baseline established around the lowest effective dose, because anything beyond that ramps up side effects without necessarily improving the outcomes. Think of it like this. Think of filling up a bucket of water. You want to fill it up just enough so when you move it, you don't get spillovers, like conversions to DHT or aromatizations to estrogen or increase in erythropoietin. When you're pushing past what your body actually needs, you're just stacking anxiety, heart palpitations, elevated blood pressure all on top of that. This is where most people lose the plot. They think more is better. But in reality, more just increases the systemic burden and throws your physiology off balance. What matters more than the dose is how sensitive your body is to androgens. You can use less and get more out of it by improving androgen receptor sensitivity. Through lifestyle, supplement, off-label medication, sleep, strategic training, those are all key factors to improve it. Some supports I use are like low-dose tadalafil, boron, magnesium glycinate, L-carnitine, or I'll even use peptides like tesamorelin, MK677, or CJC ipamorelin combo. Flooding the system only creates more work for your liver, kidneys, and cardiovascular system. And this is where a lot of people lose sight of what's really happening. They assume testosterone and anabolics only affect testosterone. But the truth is, these compounds interact with nearly every system in the body, whether it's your thyroid, your gut, your kidneys, liver, brain, heart, vascular system, metabolic regulation, and even your mental health. This isn't just a single lane hormone. It's a whole body equation. That's why true safety requires whole body monitoring and individualized data-driven guidance. And it also means that we must actively support the function of these organs. That's why we will target the support of your liver, your kidneys, cardiovascular system, brain, and prostate, and more. That's where intelligent intervention comes in. The right supplements, targeted peptides, and in some cases, higher level medication. I want to make this clear though. I do not condone the use of anabolic steroids, nor should anyone take them recreationally or without medical oversight. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. And that's where I meet patients, right where they are. I focus on risk reduction, not judgment. My goal is to help people make safer, smarter decisions and protect their long-term health, even when they've already started down a risky path. So instead of chasing super physiologic dosing, titrate to achieve a therapeutic benefit. Lower the testosterone, support androgen sensitivity, use compounds that don't require stacking, or if you do, stack strategically. And most importantly, pulse your usage. Your endocrine system needs time to recalibrate. So think of it like driving a Ferrari. It doesn't mean you have to redline every time you ride. You need regular oil changes, performance tuning, rotate and balance the tires. Same with your hormones and lab work. Speaking about labs, a great question for your provider is, what labs matter most? And if you're not tracking, you're just guessing. And in guessing in medicine is dangerous. So here's a few baseline. We have CBC for your hematocrit, hemoglobin, red blood cells, CMP to check your liver and kidney markers, NMR lipid panel, looking at your ApoB, Lp(a), oxidative LDL, as well as the size of the particles of cholesterol with your lipid. The hsCRP and homocysteine to check your inflammation and cardiovascular risk. Hormones like estradiol, LH, FSH, SHBG, DHT, insulin. These are your dashboard gauges. You wouldn't drive cross-country with your check engine light on, so why would you run gear without a dashboard baseline? So if you're done with the bro science and want a strategy that's evidence-based, personalized, and grounded in both clinical medicine and lived experience, let's talk. Book a call below and let's map this thing out properly.